Hey, welcome into another episode of SportsBeat KC. I'm Rustin Dodd with the Kansas City Star, and we're down here in Surprise, Arizona, alongside Blair, Kerkhoff, and Vahe, Gregorian. We're recording this on a Tuesday down here in the Kansas City Star's Surprise Bureau headquarters, also known as a condo with sketchy Wi-Fi and decent mattresses.
Well, you know, I'm big time you guys by being over in the local Best Western because of the crowded house, so I don't know about these things, but thanks for letting me have your pretzels and letting me do the pop-in.
The crowded house includes photographer extraordinaire John Sleezer, who, as we speak, is putting together videos and photo galleries for kansascity.com. Make sure to go and get that. So we will, and of course we'll plug it at the end, as we always do on these podcasts.
You know, it is amazing what capacity this studio has. Doesn't it strike you? Like our cold gray room back in KC. Look at this place.
Yeah, it's splendid. So the Royals open up the spring training schedule tomorrow against the Texas Rangers at Surprise Stadium. That's Wednesday. But some big news today as well. So we're going to talk about Salvador Perez's new contract extension and then preview the rest of the spring for the Royals. So let's start with Salvador Perez. The news came out this morning. He signed a 5-year, $52.5 million extension. Now it's sort of, the money is a little bit, I guess you can look at it in different ways. Essentially, he was going to make right around $16 million the next 3 years in club options. So the Royals restructured that, spread the money around. He's going to get a $6 million signing bonus. He'll make $3 million next year. He'll make $7.5 million in 2018 and $10 million in 2019, and then he'll make $13 million in 2020 and 21, and that's all guaranteed. So essentially, he got 36 more million guaranteed, and the Royals got 2 more years out of Salvador Perez, and he'll be 31 when he is a free agent in 2021. So, Vahe, I guess we can start with you. This news, I think we saw this coming. I mean, the Royals had been discussing this for a few weeks, and Sam Mellinger was down here last week and reported more kind of evidence that they were close. So I guess there wasn't necessarily a shock value, but what was your general takeaway this morning?
Well, to me, it's really interesting on a lot of levels. One, it's not exactly break the bank stuff, but it makes them whole, I guess, is maybe the way to look at it. I mean, and what I would like to know, nobody will ever really be able to talk about this, is but how much both sides were conscious of the fact that Sal might peak in 3 years. Sal might peak in 3-4 years, right? But still giving the longer offer. But the other thing, and I know you got into this in the story you wrote, and Blair, some of your questions were about this in the press conference too. What this says about the organization, doing something was not imperative it do, but it was goodwill. It was, I think, good business. To me, it reaffirms that Dayton Moore is basically a man who is what he appears to be. I think they try to do things right. I really do.
I think if the Royals are the organization that they are purporting to be, and that is all for one and one for all and family atmosphere, that this was imperative that they got this deal done. Imperative that they basically tore up his old contract and gave him a new one. Because there's no doubt that he was underpaid. Based on his accomplishments. Let's run him down. 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, 3-time All-Star, World Series MVP, top 5 catchers in baseball, maybe? 5.
You can make arguments about his offense and that it's struggled in recent years, but if you just go by wins above replacement, he's averaged about 3 wins above replacement, which for a catching position I think is probably right around the top 5 or 6 in baseball.
Of course, that's because he plays.
Yeah, he does play a lot. He does benefit on a counting stat from playing all the time. That's true.
But that brings up an interesting thing too, because that's a one way to break it down. But when Ned brings up the idea that clubhouse is a bright room, but it's a little brighter every time he walks in there, I have no idea what the intangible aspect of that really is, and we only see a certain amount, but there's kind of some kind of galvanizing presence in him, isn't there, that counts for more than just what he can do behind the plate or at the plate, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that's true throughout the entire clubhouse, and maybe particularly true with the Latin players. I have no evidence to back that up. Just observation when you go into the clubhouse, where for the most part, and this is probably true throughout baseball, Latin players are usually together in the clubhouse. Their cubicles are near each other, and you always see Salvi talking and kidding around with guys, and then the reverence in which the other players throughout the clubhouse speak of him is, I think it's genuine. And what does it say that the two latest big contract deals that the Royals have produced are Alex Gordon and Salvador Perez? They didn't have to re-sign Gordon, and they could have continued to have Salvi play under his current deal, and in both cases, they made those two players very happy. And I don't think it's lip service that the Royals are trying to take care of the players who have meaning to their organization beyond what they do on the field. Their presence in the clubhouse and what they're about. Even other Royals players talk about Alex Gordon as the model, the example of the hard-working, work ethic guy. And we know Salvador Perez has these leadership qualities as well.
One quick question, I kind of want to throw it at you. Sorry to interrupt, Rustin, but was it 2011? You guys will know this better than I will from my somewhat brief time here. 2011 or 2012, where basically all this young core materialized.
Well, Salvador Perez debuted in late 2011, which is the same year that both Hosmer and Moustakas came up. They all sort of came up staggered throughout the summer. But
for argument's sake, let's say 2012, how many on the 25-man will still be here that were in 2012? I would guess it's a little bit of an inordinate number, but I might be totally wrong. But if you look at shifts on other rosters in baseball, and what I'm getting at is I think the commitment to the core.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Off the top of my head, I would say something like 10, maybe 10 players, but which is still would seem like a lot of players.
Escobar and Kane are part of that group.
Yeah,
they came over in 10, right? In 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
So
and Dyson is in that group, and
Duffy.
Yeah, so maybe it's even a few more than 10.
Maybe
it's almost half the roster,
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I'd love to figure out a way to check on how that compares to the rest of baseball. But
yeah. I will say, and we were all there this morning, and Salvador's new agent, Rick Thurman, who was hired after he did his old deal, he mentioned that not a lot of teams would do what the Royals did, do this contract with 3 option years left on the deal. I will say, though, that the Royals, they got something out of this, too. They got 2 extra years of Salvador Perez's prime at, I think, is probably going to be a good rate in 2021.
Maybe below market value if he continues on the upward tick.
Even if he continues his current level of production and never gets any better, I think in 2020, 2021, the way that contracts continue to go up and television revenue continues to go up, and the Royals will probably have a new television deal by 2019 or 2020.
2019.
I think, this deal, as much as we're talking about what a good move it is by the organization, I think in 3 to 4 years, there's more risk involved, but I think it could look like, hey, he's still underpaid. I think they would not have done this deal if they didn't get those 2 extra years at a reasonable rate. They locked in the 3 option years, which guarantees the money, and they gave him $6 million up front and a signing bonus, which I think probably is what really makes Salvador happy, because he's been so underpaid for the last couple of years. It sort of makes up for that in that way. But I do think that $13 million in 2020 and 2021, even if he is injury plagued and doesn't play very well over the next couple of years, it's not going to be the sort of contract that hurts the Royals' chances of signing other players.
Well, that's a good point too, and even if he is still underpaid, then you won't really be able to say he's criminally underpaid.
Yeah, it's a different sort of underpaid, but I do think, if Salvador Perez had never signed that original extension, he's looking at going to free agency after, I believe, would be in the same time Hosmer and Moustakas and all those guys would. And, you're looking at a catcher who is, probably $100 million player.
He would break the bank. He would
Probably
he'd be a break the bank guy.
He'd be going to be a free agent at the age of 27, World Series MVP, All-Star catcher. I mean, that's a $100 million player at least. So,
and you're hitting at a really good point, and it would be naive to say this is just some gift. I mean, clearly it was strategic by the Royals too, but strategic in a way that I think really can basically be seen as win-win. And also in the scope of the greater reality of the Royals.
It would have been very easy
market.
for them to wait another year or wait 2 more years, in terms of seeing what he was over the next year or two. I mean, there's a lot more risk involved in doing this than just letting the other option years go out.
Were you guys struck by? I thought Ned Yost was emotional in the press conference after the signing today, almost to the point of tears.
I thought so too, and I think he was really reveling in it for Sal. But I thought he was also taking great pride in that he works in an organization that he thinks engenders trust in players, and it reflects a way of life for all of them. And I think he was proud of that.
I think so too, and it got me wondering, who's next? Who's next in this parade of who they identify as keeping the core together, and does this erase a window? Do you erase that line between 2017 and 2018?
That's a great question.
I would say that instinctively the answer is yes. It is a little bit different though, because Salvador Perez was under contract through 2019 anyway. So,
but what does it beget?
Yeah, but I do think that it's worth looking at, because I wrote this in the kind of the gamer of the contract extension today. They've got Alex Gordon now through 2019. They've got Ian Kennedy, as long as he doesn't opt out, through 2020. They've got Yordano Ventura. This is sort of something that people might forget. He's got club options through 2021, in a sort of a similar deal to Salvador Perez, but not quite as maybe below market rate. Now you've got Perez through 2021. And then you've got all these other guys that are going to come up in 2 years in terms of their free agency. So they'll have some interesting decisions to make. But as long as I think if they pick out the right guys and extend a handful of the right guys, there's no reason that they can't maybe extend the window into maybe the late teens.
Well, and keep in mind, somebody mentioned earlier the having the financial wherewithal after the current television contract expires. They're going to cash in, assuming they continue to win and fill the stadium and set, they set attendance and, audience records, ratings records last year. What's the payroll now at?
It's projected at around 136 million, but that's including everybody on the 40-man. So the 25-man payroll, I think, will be a little under that, and something that's been reported, but we're including Jason Vargas' contract in that. But if he doesn't pitch this year, they're going to get some relief there, and I think it get about $6 million back in insurance, so you can take that away. But I do think
it'll rise.
It'll be estimated around 130 million. I think.
And it'll continue to increase, but I think they'll have the capacity to increase their payroll. I do. I think that as they continue to assuming they continue to win, and the new TV contract comes through in a way that they think it will, I think they will fund a winning team beyond what we thought they might be able to do just months ago.
Well, this makes me wonder this, and maybe no matter what, they're trying to extend the enterprise as far as they can. But you make me wonder now if there's some real consciousness of that timeline of, is it 2019 when that contract expires? Goes through, mm-hmm. And if they can hold the line, so to speak, till then, what that enables them to do, and I don't know if they maybe have thought of it that specifically, but surely they have in some way.
I go back. I remember kind of laughing, at least to myself, when a couple years ago Ned said that the Braves are the organization he wants to emulate. The Braves Braves won 14 straight division titles, went to 5 World Series. They won one of them. I'm thinking there's no way in modern baseball, even the Braves are part of modern baseball, that's not going to happen again. I don't think this will happen again, but I also don't think that this stops 2 years from now. I don't think they have this year and next. I think the moves that have been made and just what the sense that you get down here in spring training is that they are they didn't think about themselves as having a 2-year window.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, well, let's, I guess we can close out this portion of the conversation and move into kind of previewing the rest of the spring. The Royals have been down here for almost 10, 11 days now, and they'll open up the spring schedule tomorrow at Surprise Stadium against the Rangers. Blair, I know you wrote a little bit about this today, but one thing that has struck me, and Ned Yost has mentioned this a couple of times, the Royals are going to play more spring training games than any team in baseball with the amount of split squad games that they have. So a lot of, I mean, it's not meaningless baseball, but there's a lot of baseball to be, a lot of baseball to be played in the next month.
I think I counted 35 games in 31 days, and that includes 2 off days. They have an off day on March 21st and one on March 31st before they play the Diamondbacks, the final 2 exhibition games at Chase Field. And then they lose the off day. They lost the off day when the season opener was pushed from Monday back to Sunday night for ESPN, the Mets game, the season opener. So it is a lot of baseball. And we've talked to Ned and players about that since we've been here, and Ned has said it, and you get a sense that they're well aware of their March schedule and will play their guys accordingly, their regulars. And you're not going to see, you're just not going to see the frontline guys play, 9 innings, 5 or 6 days a week. It's just not going to happen. It shouldn't happen, not with this kind of schedule. And some of it can't happen because of the 5 split squad games. Half the team's going to be, they're going to be in different places. But it's a lot of baseball for a team that, for anybody, but especially for a team that had 4 months off instead of 5 months off.
Yeah.
And I was doing looking at the calendar. The Royals last season ended on November 1st, and their first spring training game is March 2nd. So that's 4 months and 1 day. And so I think it's everything we hear is that they're going to be kind of eased into this, into spring training. We know that Salvador Perez isn't playing until Saturday. He's going to miss the first 3. Infante can't play defense for a while as he's recovering from his elbow surgery. Who else? Escobar, I guess, is not going to
kind of a late start.
Late start, and
Kendrys Morales won't play until Friday.
So I know Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, has said he wants the fans pay their money. They travel to Florida and Arizona to see spring training. They should see the stars of the game, but I don't think Rob Manfred talked to Ned about this, and so I think you'll see Gordon, Hosmer, Kane, Moustakas, everybody for a while, but you're not going to see him play 9 innings often.
Seems to me last spring, and I could be remembering this wrong, you'd always see 4 or 5 regulars, enough that I think most fans would be happy with that. And I don't know, as a fan, don't you want to kind of see what's next too? Are you okay with that as a fan if you come out here? I would think you would be.
Yeah. So you'll see Hosmer bat twice, something like that.
Yeah. Play 6 innings.
Yeah. And then you'll see Omaha's first baseman and Northwest Arkansas's first baseman and Wilmington's first baseman. And I think it's especially true what you say about pitchers. I mean, you really want to see what the young arms are, and that's kind of a position of intrigue because of the deals that the Royals made last summer. How many?
6? Was it 6 guys?
5 pitchers.
5 pitchers, 5 prospects.
4 left-handers.
4 left-handers and Aaron Brooks.
Well, and one of those lefties was Brandon Finnegan, who had World Series experience.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to know some new faces on the mound this year.
Speaking of that, Kyle Zimmer, that maybe their top pitching prospect, is going to pitch the opener tomorrow, and then it's Ned Yost has said to not read too much into this, but the way they've structured the rotation, I don't know how you can't read more into it. They're going to go Volquez, Ventura, Ian Kennedy, Chris Young, Chris Medlin, the next 5 games after Zimmer starts the opener. So that, I mean, it's early and it's lots can change, but I think that's essentially what one might think the rotation would be when the season starts, aside from Danny Duffy. So I do think, even though Ned has said don't read a lot into that, I think that you can read a little something into that.
I didn't get to use this in the story I wrote about Volquez for today, and maybe there's a place we can use it somewhere later, but we got talking a little bit about the meaning of opening day, and he basically said
he doesn't want to do it.
He would prefer not to because he likes to watch the pomp and circumstance of opening day. He'll do it if he has to.
I was at FanFest, and Jeffrey Flanagan and I interviewed him there, and we asked him if he wanted to start opening day because he seems like kind of the logical candidate. And he said no. He's done it. He's done it a couple times before, and he likes enjoying the opening day atmosphere and just kind of taking it easy. And so a couple days later, I kind of wrote something about that, and I was kind of like, I think this guy was kind of kidding. I think he would probably want to start opening day.
He would take the ball.
Yeah. So I went back to him during spring training, and I was like, Eddie, you were kind of kidding about that opening day thing, right? And he's like, no, I wasn't kidding, man. He's like, I don't want to, I'd prefer not to start opening day. So
he started game 1 of the World Series.
The clincher and game 1.
Yeah, game 1 and game 5.
Yes.
I believe there was a little pomp and circumstance around the opening of the World Series as well.
Listen, Skip, I don't want the ball. The World Series is a really cool thing to watch.
So, but yeah, so I still think the safe money is on him starting opening day, despite his protests.
You think it's him over Ventura?
I think the argument is that Volquez deserves to. I mean, he was maybe their most steady starting pitcher last year, and then performed in the playoffs, and he's a veteran. The other argument would be that perhaps they'd want to give Ventura maybe a confidence boost or kind of a vote of confidence to go out there, and I could see Ned Yost doing something like that. That's sort of been in his wheelhouse in terms of managerial tactics. But I think at the moment, I still think Volquez will be the guy, but I think, Ventura wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
If you were in Ned Yo's, as Giordano calls him, Ned Yo's seat.
I think I would start Volquez on opening day. I mean, they're playing the Mets. It's going to be a highly charged atmosphere. I think you probably feel more comfortable with Ventura or Volquez on the mound.
What's interesting is that Tuesday game's or Wednesday game. Is that what
Tuesday
game is? Both of those are going to have that element to it.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't see why you. I think there's still an element of risk with the psyche of Ventura, and it looked to me like it didn't help him last year to be cast as the ace.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little bit, it was a little bit correlation, not causation. But when he wasn't the ace, the second half of the season, when they got Cueto, he did perform better.
He did.
I don't know how much you can really read into that. I think it might have been a coincidence, but I still think you can maybe get some sort of value out of putting him out there on opening day and saying, hey, you're our guy. But I think maybe that some of that's overrated as well. So
one thing to keep in mind is whoever starts game 1 has a good chance of starting game 3 because they play, they're off. They play, they're off, they're off. They only play 2 games in the first 5 days.
Sunday,
he'll be on.
Tuesday,
he would be on regular. Game 1 starter would be on regular rest for game 3 if he wanted to do that.
It's totally fascinating, actually, to think that through. I mean, the corollary or the flip side, I guess, would be, well, why don't you just get into the pattern you're going to be in, and you need those extra innings anyway. I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be on a regular rotation. I guess I could see them maybe skipping the 5th starter, whoever that is.
For his first.
Just so the game, whoever starts opening day isn't on like 8 days rest.
That's right.
When you come around and start a second time. So I could see them doing that, but I think they'll probably at least start 4 guys that first week. And
goofy setup. Just to look at the schedule to see 2 games in 5 days is so goofy.
We mentioned him, but let's touch on Kyle Zimmer one more time.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast anytime after Wednesday, he probably would have already started his opening day start. So some of this will be a little bit dated, but I find that they're sending him out there the first Cactus League game to be on the one hand, sort of very spring training of them to do, just sort of like, hey, it's a game, doesn't really matter, let's see what he can do. But also, I feel like there's a little bit of them either rewarding him for coming back from injuries, and also sort of just a test, just to see what he does. And I think he's going to throw probably 2 innings. Ned Yost said he's going to be on probably a 30 pitch count, so that'll probably get him through 2 innings, unless something crazy happens. But I'm interested to see how he responds, because the way Ned Yost talked about him on whatever day he talked about him, like maybe that was Sunday, it surprised me some of the stuff he said, because Ned has been so I don't know what the right word is. He's so hesitant to say anything about any player during spring training, just sort of like, we'll see what happens. But with Kyle Zimmer, he was interested to see his talent and compared him to Yordano Ventura, and I think he's a guy that the Royals think could help them in the second half of the season. So
we've been waiting a long time
Yeah.
for Kyle Zimmer and a fully healthy guy. I mean, I remember the excitement around the organization when they drafted him and got him signed, and I agree. I think in most years the exhibition opener starter is not a story. It's not significant. I think there's a little bit of signicance to
I totally
Kyle
agree.
Zimmer's story.
Don't you think so? It's prime the pump. It's telling him something, isn't it? It's saying, we're gonna not fast track you, but we want you on track.
I think so. And we mentioned that all the pitchers they traded away at the deadline last year, and Kyle was actually, I was just talking to him today a little bit about that. He was teammates with some of them when those guys were getting traded, which was interesting in and of itself. But they don't necessarily have the farm system to really go out and get that talent at the deadline this year. And Kyle Zimmer is not he's not a veteran and he wouldn't have major league experience, but if you're looking for a talented arm, like a high upside arm, he could be the deadline guy this year, or something that you could go to in July or August, and maybe it blows up and he's awful and he needs a couple of months and he's not good right away. But I think sometimes the high upside pitchers, the really talented pitchers, can come in and make a difference from the jump more so than hitters.
Okay, here's your so as we were talking about Kyle Zimmer, I had to look up who the Royals started in last year's exhibition opener. Anybody care to take a guess?
Was it Volquez?
It was not.
Was it a young
guy?
guy?
It was Aaron Brooks.
Aaron Brooks.
I remember.
See,
was your start.
It goes against the so there's some evidence that we should not be reading too much in Kyle Zimmer.
No, there's evidence they're making him trade bait.
Yeah.
What I remember about that game though was the back-to-back home runs.
Yes.
Rios, Kendris, and
I think it was Hosmer, Kendris, and Rios.
Yeah.
Morales and Rios.
Yeah.
In the first inning, it was a 6-run first inning because I think Escobar had led off and Dyson was in the top 3, and they all got on. And Hosmer hit a ball. I know the air is a little lighter here.
Yeah.
And he hit a ball that, if you're familiar with Surprise Stadium, there's the center field fence, and then there's the grassy berm behind it, and then there's the big wall. I think there's some gardening out there too, some shrubbery or something. I think it landed in front of the wall, but behind the shrubs. It was an unbelievable blast. And talk about boding well for the Royals.
Yeah,
I mean, 6 runs in the first inning of a season that in which they're coming off the disappointing World Series loss.
And it had been a team that hit like Roger Maris total home runs the year. I guess he's not the standard anymore, but old man baseball player.
Gotta bring it back.
The World Series championship was guaranteed after
the top of the first.
after this Cactus League opener. So maybe we should go out on that.
Maybe we should.
Okay.
Nice uptick.
Yeah. Well, follow along on the coverage in the pages of the Kansas City Star and kansascity.com.
And the True Blue app.
Yes.
Don't
download
forget
the True Blue app. It's we've got to plug the app.
And I said it before at the beginning, I'll say it again. John Sleezer's photos and videos have been terrific. Give him a click.
Please do.
Awesome. So for Vahe, Gregorian, and Blair Kerkhoff, I'm Rustin Dodd of the Kansas City Star. We'll be back next week with another podcast. And until then,